I taught history for 40 years, and for a good part of that time, I blundered around. I tried. I had some good ideas. I could get students enthused, but I didn't really know where to focus and what to do. And now, when I sit down to prepare a lesson, I know exactly what I have to look at and exactly what needs to be focused on and what the students need to learn. It's given me a whole vision of what I'm doing. So I think this is a process that helps the expert as much as it does the novice that expert's trying to teach. We live in a world in which expertise is absolutely essential. We've all got to be learning all the time. We have to turn to experts to do that. The problem is that experts' knowledge is hidden. It's material they learned years and years ago. It was probably easy for them because it's natural, and they put layers and layers of learning on top of it.
When we're trying to teach somebody to do what we know how to do, we know things that are not available to us, things that we've gotten so good at doing that it has become naturalized.
Most people who are successful think it's like some kind of magic sauce that they have. They don't realize they learned it, and they can't teach it. They're like, well, just think like me. If you think like me, you'll be successful. And that's not true at all. Yeah. You know, somebody else might be successful doing it totally different. Yeah. And this process would just kind of dig until you break it down enough that you get those insights.
The interviews, where we're really asking these deep, hard questions of these people, gets at that when and the why sort of knowledge.
Many of the people who create the systems and show us how to use them in help screens and such don't know many of the steps. They can't put themselves easily in the position of the novice learner who's stumbling around. And so they don't tell us you're supposed to put the key in the ignition. And if you don't know you're supposed to put the key in the ignition, the car doesn't start.
It's not a passive interview process where somebody asks these 6 questions and you can ask it. You have to constantly ask the person who's interviewing, you have to try out what they just told you, sort of rehearse it in your mind. See, you know, if I tried that, what would happen to me? And that kind of cues you in for your next questions that you're going to ask in the interview. Would you say you spend more time on defining the problem or making the solution?
Defining the problem, for sure. It's much harder to do that part of it. Solutions are usually pretty evident once you know what the problem is. When I first started doing this kind of work, I was doing it as a consultant, and you don't have the bandwidth to always follow through as well as you want to. And I think early in my career, I identified holes and left them for a lot of people, because I just didn't have the ability to always help them fill those holes. And that's why consultants get such a bad name. You know, we paid you a lot of money to come tell us what's wrong. Thanks. You know, and then you left. I think you make a mess just big enough that the people who are there are able to clean it up and straighten it up. So you don't make a mess bigger than what you can handle. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what it looks like fixed, right? If you don't know when it's fixed, if there's no indication of it being solved. So it's important to define that too. Otherwise you don't know when you're done. Mm-hmm. These people who are so entrenched, they're so living the issue that it's difficult for them to see it from a different perspective. So I'm kind of translating it into an outsider's view to translate it back in. So I speak just enough of their language that they trust me, but I'm not so entrenched that I can't see the forest for the trees either.
And so I can see doing those things. I'm not clear on the end of what you were giving at the meetings, that pretty soon they would say, let's have Sarah in this meeting.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what Christian said I would learn from this. He said I would get to the point where I wouldn't know the answers to the questions. So I'm trying to think. I'm there now. Definitely I'm there now. Cha-ching.
Most people can give you fast answers, and they're not very useful. The people who produce good interviews, the good interviewees, the powerful ones, are doing something that's very difficult and very demanding, not only intellectually, but also personally. It's threatening. It threatens you right at the core of the work that you do.
And asking, okay, so, and how do you do that? And what do you know that lets you do that? And where did you learn that? Okay, now where did you learn that? And how did you know that? And I was telling him, it's like, I have my annual review meeting today, and all I'm going to do is go in there and go, I don't know anymore. They blew my mind. I don't know.
In a successful interview, you often end with a table filled with pieces that are necessary to the operation. And at that point, you then have to make strategic decisions. You have to say, here's the 2 or 3 things that are most likely to create problems, or that if they're mastered will be most likely to lead a person to success. And then you focus on those. And that's a crucial part.
So I like to say one of the metaphors for decoding is that you're opening up one of those Russian nested dolls, and you'll say it's this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem and this problem.
Right.
And they never kind of really open up one of them. She might have laid out 20 things that can be very difficult to teach somebody how to do, but we pretty quickly focused in on one, and we got really deeply into that. She's really quite asking hard questions about it. Is that really going to fix the problem that you're presenting to us?
And in almost every field we go into, that formal problem is there, that novices go in too fast.
Yeah.
They don't stop. They don't wait.
Or even experts might have something to sell, right? They might have something to sell, and it might not fix the problem that is existing. The true problem, the base problem. So that's what her specialty is. Conceptually, I know what she's doing, and now if somebody can give me some practice at it, I think I know what the task at hand is.
That on a scale that's never been seen in human history, people have to be continually learning new things and hard things, and it doesn't end. You never finish. And so we have to learn how to do that much, much better than we've ever done it before.
One of the things that came out is Sarah has an operation or an ability where she is able to ask really good questions. Whether she is learning a new technology or whether she is working on a team, she's very good at what we call maintaining an outsider status. So she's very comfortable knowing that she's not going to be the expert in this new technology, a new area, and she's very willing to ask questions that might make her look a little bit silly at first, but that allows her to quickly learn a new technology or a new lingo when she's working with a team. We have created starting to create a map here of Sarah's 7 to 9 operations. If I want to be a little more like Sarah in her ability to adapt to new technologies and situations, one of the key things I have to get pretty good at is getting to the root of a problem, whether that's adapting to a new situation with a client or just trying to figure out how to use a new technology in my own life. Now, to do that, I have to be pretty good at 2 things. One is to create what Sarah calls the right size messes. So I have to be comfortable asking questions to which I do not have an answer. The second thing is asking the hard questions early. Once we have created this map, we're going to go through each of these things, create learning activities, tests, those activities where you're actually creating a piece of content or you're practicing things. Those go beyond just typing on a keyboard, but you're actually learning how to think.
Sort of the ability to have the language and the almost philosophical approach to explaining what it is we do and how we do it has not grown up. And so this is something that has to be developed at this time. And the state of our knowledge to get better has to change in this way.
And so it's been enlightening, and yet I did to myself what I said I'd do in the interview. I've made a mess of things, and so now I have to figure out how to clean it up.